Hello guys, this is Muhafiz Khan. I would like to share my views on the Union Budget 2017-18 presented by the Union Finance Minister on 1st Feb. The topic of my discussion is Budget 2017-18, a new normal. Let me start with Newton's first law of motion. Newton's first law of motion is that when an object which moves continues to move until there is an external force applies. This is law of inertia. The budget 2017-18 is a wonderful document of inertia. This budget is continues to move India in a particular direction but does not provide that external force to change its direction. What change suppose? Let me give an example. All budgets have three columns. One is actual estimates of the 2 years before, second is budget estimate of the last year, and lastly revised estimate of the last year based on what happened. Two numbers stand out here. The budget estimate of the last year corporate tax was rupees 493,923 crore and the revised estimate is rupees 493,923 crore. Budget estimate of the income tax was rupees 353,173 crore and revised estimate was rupees 353,173 crore. Both figures are same. This is the inertia what I said. And of course, this is due to the lack of external force in the last union budget. Here, I would like to give an overall understanding of the global situations before I am going to the core of the topic. This is the world of uncertainty, no doubt. Donald Trump's election victory, Britain's decision to leave European Union, popular movements in America against globalization, China's ever close attitude towards globalization, which happened in Davos, Modi's thumping majority in the world's largest democratic country are creating a cloud of uncertainty in the world. Where are we, India, today? We are in an island of accelerated growth and still struggling to come out from the slowdown. Global slowdown was not really in reverse. Hence, this affected India to a great extent in many fold, like we have very fortunate low oil regime in the last 4 years, reduction of gold import from the global market, and more importantly, our current account deficit as a percentage of GDP is steadily coming down and it reaches up to 0.2 percentage of our GDP. But care comes from the budget of the GDP, something underlying what is happening. It shows the shrinking of India's partnership in the global trade. There is a risk involved in that. Once trade shrinks, then we are dependent on the increase of the trade on some external developments that actually happening in USA and China today. In India, we have three very important developments. The first one is India's internal trade continue to be much more robust than external, which is a plus point. That is what economic survey says. India's internal trade is 54% of our GDP, whereas USA and China are about 75% of their GDP. What does it mean? This means that given the right policy, India as a nation can trade with all the states with utmost efficient. The second aspect is migration. Economic survey remarkably made a conclusion that migration actually carrying some sort of risk in the economic transaction because of moving from one place to another for work, and of course it will simultaneously generating income and compensating that short-term cost, no doubt. The path of migration is now estimated to have favorable GDP by almost 15%. And the third one and the last one is nothing but demonetization. I'm sure that no one wants to hear about it because of nightmare following for the last 4 months. And I'm sure that no one wants to speak about it because everyone knows all about it. About 86% of the money which are circulating in the economy withdraw, and we all know in our mind how much money has come back, but government is not keeping an account on that. I guess this is my guess only. I'm not sure, okay. But there is a simple error happened in the finance ministry because of their enthusiasm. Maybe the finance ministry started collecting data from post offices, corporate banks, and even in a reserve bank. and the data collected from the post office also reported to the Reserve Bank of India by the government. So far, a short period of time, there happened a double counting. The government is advocating that the benefit of demonetization is to prevent black market, corruption, terrorism, and fake currency. Here, I'm speculating as such, any of this will come down. There are three shocks discussed in the economic survey which deliberately forgotten by the Union Finance Minister in his budget speech. These are like demand shock, supply shock, and more importantly, uncertainty shock, which means we don't know how long we have to face this health situation. This is where I come to this budget. About a week ago, I happened to meet my professor, my guide, uh, Professor Sriram Srirangan, director of Sriram's IAS Institute, Delhi, and he is a champion of public finance. And he told me that he roughly prepared a small calculation and came to an estimated GDP number. The amazing fact is that that GDP number is nearly 1% away from what the government presented in that budget. So what does it mean? The government is behaving like there is no demonetization, just projecting number as if nothing happened. And that is the lesson I carried from this budget. When I say it is the Newton's first law, I mean the government is behaving as if nothing happened. There is no external force which has changed anything, and we are going as usual we are. Our tax receipt in the revised estimate and the budget estimates are same. Our overall expenditure, except 3 or 4, are predetermined expenditure without inflation. But the government is now saying that they allocated more in all Mandrika schemes, which already criticized by the government in the core of parliament before 2 years. But they didn't allocate anything actually. It is the same number as in the revised estimate, for example, rupees 47293 in the last revised budget estimate of 2016-17. The fact is that they are not even added inflation to it. The government is also suffering an uncertainty shock here. The government does not know how to estimate the effect of this anomaly created in the form of demonetization. Economic survey and budget are equally stressing that there are short-run and long-run benefits to the demonetization. Short-term benefit like digitalization, formalization, and accountability, and so on. But I have issue on long-term benefit. If there are long-term benefit of the demonetization and it is sufficiently long-term, then you will not know whether the benefit is due to demonetization or not, because the object which moves continues to move. There are good things in this budget, no doubt. One very welcome step is that take away of planning and non-planning expenditure terminology. And interesting thing is the merging of railway budget to the union budget. Now we will have to find new trains from the notification, not from the railway minister's announcement. And last one, which is of course a logic move, that budget date itself has been preponed to Feb 1, and this will of course will be convened to the government to make plan for the Feb and March expenditure and to start the next fiscal year in a fresh mood. Lastly, it doesn't take a great imagination to prepare a budget like this. It does take a lot of numbers to make a budget like this. Here the government has succeeded. Budget lacks imagination because it continues to do what is supposed to do. So a budget that goes on as if nothing happened is what this budget is. Thank you.